This segment of Deer and Deer Hunting TV is brought to you by Silencers Central. Silence delivered.
I wanted to know if I was sitting in a ground blind at the base of a tree and a deer's out broadside at 20 yards. I wanted to know where the perfect shot on that would be, which, you know, I've done a lot of research on that. Well, then I thought, if the tree that my back's up against, if I'm up in that tree on a typical 15-foot ladder stand and I shot at that exact same deer, where would my perfect shot be? My goal is to be within 1/4 of an inch of scientifically, unarguably the perfect kill shot.
So what you're telling me is you built a tool that accomplishes that.
That's exactly that.
Meet Brian Johnson, the anatomy hunter. Brian has earned a prestigious reputation in the outdoors industry by being one of the most talented archery target sculptors in the world. If you've been a bow hunter for any length of time, there's no doubt you've seen his work. But Brian's true passion lies in shot placement and doing his best to educate hunters everywhere on whitetail anatomy in order to increase ethical kill shots and wild meat consumption. Brian lately has been working on a new archery target that could change bow hunting forever.
All right, Dan, I want to tell you what I did, what this is all about. So what I did is I took an archery target that I had out in the yard and I cut it, as you can see, in half back here. And this represents an end view, like I'm looking into the deer from the end here. And what I did is I made this pattern here, and this pattern represents the thorax cavity right at the kill zone, right in the crease behind the front leg. Okay, so this gives me on the top, the backbone, this is the aorta that's here, that shows me how high I can shoot. In the bottom of the sternum shows me how low I could shoot. In the circle in the middle is the dead center of that.
That's the dead center of your kill zone.
Yes, and I call the center kill technology. So if I know where that spot is, if I shoot at that, I can shoot this much higher or that much lower and still kill the animal, but I've got to know where that's at.
Finding the center kill point will be as easy as ranging the deer and reading the shot angle. Nowadays, almost all rangefinders will provide a shot angle as well as the distance. Brian is working on developing an archery target that would provide scientifically sound aiming points for multiple common bow hunting shot opportunities that would help you take the guesswork out of where to aim when a deer is only 5 yards away at a rather steep angle. Brian's new target uses center kill technology to provide the perfect kill shot within 1/8 of an inch, as well as showing the respective highest and lowest entry points to put the deer down as quickly as possible. This might seem a bit confusing right now, but remember, what you're looking at is just a prototype from a man whose goal is to help hunters make the most ethical and humane shots as possible. If this target and his center kill technology hits the market, it could completely change the way we all hunt for the better.
What it really strikes me, is that impact. That impact spot way up here versus here.
And you're hitting the exact same spot.
And you're hitting the exact same spot. And the other thing too is it shows you the margin of error becomes a lot greater as that angle increases.
It sure does.
As far as when I talk about margin of error, I'm talking about hitting both lungs. You get higher and we're talking about one lung and stuff like that.
That's right.
Then we have problems. Welcome back to Deer and Deer Hunting TV. In the last segment, we learned about center kill technology. Brian, we're going to take it a step further and you're going to teach us about angles.
Yes, and we're going to do it on an actual mounted deer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put an arrow in the hole.
This is our ground blind shot.
That's our ground blind shot there. So that should be perfectly level.
No angle, that's coming in straight.
If we could do this a little bit of a challenge to the viewers, Dan, if we could try this, where do you think this is from a perfect shot? Do you think that's a perfect shot, a little bit high? How far below the backbone, how far above the backbone? Okay, I just want you to hold that in your mind if you could. Now we go up, and this represents the exact same deer that's at 20 yards as this arrow, except the hunter is 15 feet up in a tree, and this is 16 degrees downward trajectory angle. Now we go here. This is our next one. This is at 26 degrees. The next one, now the deer's closer. Now he's at 10 yards, and now we're at 36 degrees. This one represents The hunter that's up in a tree, same tree stand height, 15 feet, but the deer's at 5 yards. Now, here's the interesting thing. Do you see those there? Let's spin this bad boy around. Every one of those arrows,
they're intersecting with each other.
They all hit the exact same spot below the backbone. Those are all the highest shots that you can make on this deer at that particular angle and go underneath the backbone. I did not account on broadheads, because if I counted on broadheads, what type of broadhead, where's the broad? So I just did it underneath the backbone.
So many different variables.
Yes, so I just stayed away from that for simplicity to make this understandable.
This is just talking about angles. Basically just teaching our minds to think in those angles and think about that kill zone. Is it getting smaller, basically, when you're going up higher in the tree? And it is. It's not only getting smaller this way, it's getting smaller this way.
Yes. Now, let's do the opposite. Let's see how low we can go. These arrows here represent as low as you can go at these same angles and hit both lungs, or to hit the one lung and go through the mediastinum, which is what we want. We have to have that.
So we're talking 8 different kill shots here. Highest margin of error as far as getting underneath the spine.
Yes.
Lowest margin of error as far as how low can you go before that arrow is not doing its job.
Before it's a single lung shot, yes.
And then
you've
got
yes. Yes.
That's fascinating.
So let's spin that around. They all come out
right here
at that one hole right there. They all intersect right there.
That's fascinating.
So,
because when we look at that side, it looks like this, but on the angles, how that angle's coming through right there. I mean, it's less than my little fingernail. It's coming out of the same hole.
Now you may look at this and wonder how you would use this information when a giant buck is standing at 20 yards and your heart is beating out of your chest. Well, if you're bow hunting, then hopefully you've already ranged that deer or spot, and that rangefinder likely also provided you with a shot angle, which is a piece of information that is often left out of the shot equation by most hunters. But as Brian has proven with his demonstration, it can help you pinpoint the perfect kill range to ensure a deadly shot.
So Brian, if you just walked me in off the street and showed me this, I would say those arrows are, a lot of them are good, but they're kind of all over the place.
Well, my answer to you is I agree with you. I did this, I put it together, I look at it from this side, and I think I blew it. I had to have done something wrong. And so then I go back and I check my math, so to speak, and I turn it, and I take a look at this, and I go, they all come together on the top, right under the backbone.
That is absolutely fascinating. You've got 4 coming in, same spot here, the bottom 4 coming in, same spot there, all doing what they're supposed to do.
Don't go away. Coming up next, DDH contributor Josh Honeycutt shares how his knowledge of whitetail anatomy helped him decide to pull the trigger on a Kentucky buck that surprised him during muzzleloader season. Deer and Deer Hunting TV is brought to you by
All right, so there are many different elements when it comes to hunting whitetail deer, but one of the most important is understanding whitetail anatomy. Whitetail anatomy is part of, just deer hunting in general, especially when it comes to making an ethical shot on the deer that's in front of you. Now, understanding whitetail anatomy is multifaceted. You have to understand exactly where the organs are located, understand shot angles, whether that be windage related or up and down. You need to understand exactly how that arrow or bullet is going to pass through the whitetail as it does so, and how the angle affects that. This entire theme could not be more relevant to a hunt that I had several years ago in Kentucky. It was October 16th, 2021, and I was hunting the early muzzleloader season. I was basically set up overlooking a CRP field and hunting a deer that at the time I did not realize was there. But looking back on it, it was a deer that I had 2 years of history with, and he was bedding right there in a sinkhole in the middle of the CRP.
Happened. I can't even believe that. I don't even have a clue what deer that is. He's just a big old deer. Never seen him in my life. I need to make sure he's down. I mean, he's putting it out for as fast as he was running. I just found first back here, and it's solid blood right through here. I mean, he was trucking too. He's bleeding pretty good for it to be. I mean, it's everywhere.
So when I finally had an opportunity to shoot this deer and get it on camera, he was slightly quartering too, but with a 50 caliber muzzleloader that's very accurate and enough practice at the range that I was confident in my own abilities, I knew that paired with a firm understanding of whitetail anatomy, that I could make that shot count and make it an ethical one. This deer only went probably 70 to 80 yards after impact and toppled over. I centered the front of the lungs on that deer and made it a double lung hit. It was just one of those things where I was able to aim just forward enough, because I understood that if he's quartering two, I've got to push the entrance of that shot placement forward on the deer because of the way that that animal is turned. And I was able to pass through both lungs because of that.
So here he is. This is the big brow tine buck. That's what he's got his name now. He's had a name for about 5 minutes. I'm not good on naming deer, but you know, this is a buck that we've not had any pictures of this season. He, you know, today was the first time that I had seen him. Whenever he come out across the CRP, he was bedded, I think, in a sinkhole up here just to the north of us. But I was sitting in the sunglasses stand, saw probably 50 deer in total. It's just one of those things where we had this first cold front of October. Moved in late last night, early this morning, and you know, we've said it before, we'll say it again. Those first cold fronts in October, they're really good at getting deer on their feet. And this deer certainly got on his feet too. But couldn't be happier, couldn't be more blessed to have an opportunity at deer like this. Give God the glory for sure.
Okay, so here's a tip when using your rangefinder. A lot of times we just range a couple points when we get in the blind. We put the rangefinder down and kind of get caught up in the moment when a deer comes in. Normally that works if you know that tree is, you know, 30 yards, that stick is 50, but when these deer get out into a food plot, it's really tough to judge distances. When your heart rate gets going and it's a buck and you want to shoot them, he could be a little bit out of your range. So what I do is, I've learned the hard way, is that food plot is going to be deceiving, especially if it's a larger one. This is a small one, but what's deceiving is that I've got 2 funnels coming into it, and I'm going to see those deer long before they get into the field. So I just take a stick and I put it at the breaking point of my first and second pin on my bow, because I know my first pin, anything with my first pin is money. I just have to get the pin on him. Second pin, a little bit trickier. Third pin, even more tricky. I don't take third pin shots normally, as you know. So second pin, I can do it, but I want to know my breaking point for my first pin is between 32 and 34 yards. So I'll err on the side of caution and I'll put it at 32, and that's where I stuck that stick. I put that stick right at 32. Now I know with my rangefinder when I go up here, okay, I'm 32 to that stick, and I am 38 to the edge of the weeds. That's a big difference. So he's got to be between the stick and the weeds. Now I could do that around this plot, but I know this narrows down, and I call money. I'm one pin all the way in. I love those types of bow hunts when I don't have to think about it. The second thing I like about rangefinders is, especially these ones like these Tideweed rangefinders, they have a tracking mode on them. And this is very helpful when I'm hunting bigger areas. Like when we're out in Wyoming, we're hunting a big center pivot field. If I'm watching that deer come in, if I just hold down on that button, it's tracking that deer from 50 to 45 to 43 to 40 to 38 to 35. And when he stops, I know where he's at, and then hopefully I have a reference or he's within that money shot. So those two things, a scan mode if you have it, and also just is something as simple as a stick at your breaking point between your first and second pins. You're going to be thankful when that deer steps into range. Okay guys, I'm going to do this in the studio so you don't have to do it in the store. Listen to this. A little bit of noise from my release, but nothing from my clothing. This is the new Zone 7 Versa series from Code of Silence. This stuff is built like hunting clothing should be built, and it's built by hunters for the rut, I might add. This clothing right here, the Zone 7, perfect for 10 degrees to 40 degrees. It's ideal for hunting all day. 3 of the top attributes of this clothing: Berber wool. It's a new textured fabric that's knitted from wool fibers that provides game-changing warmth and an extreme light-absorbing presence in any outdoor scenario. The second thing is a Windseal TC3 barrier. It's a new state-of-the-art barrier technology that guarantees 100% protection from all wind velocities. And finally, the neutral LR technology, light absorption versus light reflectance. This technology neutralizes your image like nothing else on the market. That's Code of Silence clothing. Check it out at codeofsilence.com or a dealer near you.